Alright, hello everyone and welcome to the channel. So still in devblog season, but I wanted to cover something that I haven't seen a lot of YouTubers actually getting into, and that's the helmet mounted sight for the F-4J. So there's three parts to the story. I'm going to get into all of that. Three elements: the VTAS helmet interface, the AM9G, and something called the Sidewinder expanded acquisition mode. But the reason why the F-4J had a helmet mounted sight, and actually not just the J as I'll get into, was because the United States Navy was very forward looking, and they took a lot of the Vietnam War dogfighting lessons, with MiG-21s, MiG-19s, and MiG-17s, I believe as well. They took those lessons very seriously. So let's crack into this, the VTAS, or the helmet interface. So what does that stand for? It's the AN-AVG-8V Visual Target Acquisition System. It's a very fancy name for a helmet mounted sight or position reference system. So this was equipped to the F-4B, the J, the N, and the S. So basically, it works like any helmet mounted sight. It determines the pilot's helmet position, and then, does that intergonculator stuff. So the F4 aircraft radar or the Sidewinder are selectively slaved to the pilot's line of sight for air-to-air combat, and wherever the pilot looks, the radar or Sidewinder look. So there's a little monocle looking thing on the VTAS helmet, and basically what the pilot would do is just put that over the aircraft and then press like a button, a switch on the control stick, and it caused the radar or the Sidewinder to lock onto that aircraft, and then all the other fire control stuff after that. So the impact of the VTAS meant that the US Navy effectively had a counter to the MiG-29 Fulcrum's helmet mounted sight before that plane was even operational, since the US Navy had been using it since 1972 on the F-4B/J and then the F-4N. It was quite primitive looking at it, but it did do the job. The system was tested on the F-14 and the US Air Force F-15 during something called the ACE eval and the AIM eval. So what those were was an air combat evaluation and the air intercept missile evaluation. These evaluations ran from 1974 to 1978, and it was conducted at Nellis Air Force Base, and it produced many lasting benefits for both services. Unfortunately, widespread adoption of the VTAS system was not one of them. It was only integrated into the US Navy F-4. So I know I said it was tested on the F-14 and F-15, but it was not integrated into those jets at all. So it's very questionable if Gaijin would even try to put those systems on these aircraft in the game. Alright, so let's jump over to the AM9G and SEAM. So the Sidewinder expanded acquisition mode was introduced on the AM9G. The basic way it works is that the AM9G has two modes when uncaged. There's a predefined search pattern mode, and there's also a slaving of the optics through a radar or a helmet mounted sight mode. So when the pilot moves his head with the VTAS system in the F4, the radar or Sidewinder, like I said before, look with him. This enables the AM9G to be fired off bore sight. Now, I know that sounds awesome, but I wouldn't get too happy about it because, in my opinion, the AM9G can't really capitalize on high off-bore sight shots like the R-73 Archer because the AM9G doesn't have thrust vector. Overall, I think though that this is good news for the game. At least one other aircraft right now gets a helmet mounted sight. It's a little bit older, but it's still good. And it can counter the MiG-29. And it gives me a reason actually to break out the F-4J and, try to employ it against the Fulcrum, which is probably ill-advised, but I'm going to do it anyway. These mechanics could have been expanded, in my opinion, to aircraft that don't exist in the game yet, but the basic models do. So like the Mirage 3CZ and the Mirage F1AZ of the South African Air Force had helmet-mounted sights back in the 60s and in the early 70s, but Gaijin didn't think of that, I guess. So the South African Air Force versions of those aircraft could definitely be an easy copy and paste into the game. Missed opportunities. But closing it up here, my thoughts, and I'll definitely cover this more in the future, but my thoughts on helmet mounted sights is I think it's a net positive for the game. Sure, R73s could be quite OP if Gaijin doesn't balance them, and from last I saw the dev server, they're kind of going in the direction I didn't expect. They're actually becoming stronger instead of a little bit weaker. In my opinion, I think as long as they're very susceptible to flares, the MiG-29 should get the R73 in the helmet sight. I mean, it's practically the main selling point of the MiG-29. Of course, it's cool with the R60s as well, but I want those R73s, but I want it to be balanced in the game. It doesn't do anyone any good if they introduce a one-off mechanic in one airplane and then it just kicks everybody's butt, because then you just really make the whole player base furious. And then everybody will just grind the MiG-29. They'll be wondering like, hey, what about all these other jets? And you're almost like, yeah, what about them? I don't want to play that. But guys, let me know what you think about the whole helmet mounted sight addition to the game. Are you happy? Do you think they should hold off on something like that? As we get these, more capable jets, we always knew that they were going to bring more mechanics with them because they're capable of more. So it's almost like you can't put the toothpaste, back in the tube now. Like, we're getting these jets, we're just going to have to suck it up with how strong they are, but there's still a lot of work Gaijin needs to do on them so that they just don't crush other planes. Personally, I would have started them at BR 12.0, but at least at 12.0 minimum. But not my monkeys, not my circus. All right, guys, let me get out of here. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you happy for the helmet mounted sights? Are you excited for a granddaddy like the F-4J getting something new and pretty cool? I'm gonna try the F-4J. I'm excited about the F-16 and MiG-29, of course, but I want to try those AM9Gs. All right. Thanks for stopping by. If you liked the video, hit the like button and subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and I'll see you guys in the future.